Trixie's Forest Retreat. By Crow's Crow. Chapter 67. Reenact. Trixie could feel her hooves shake while she held up the toast. She contemplated briefly if she should just put it back down and avoid any risk of humiliating herself. After all, she could always try again in a few minutes. It was difficult to resist the glossy, tasty-looking strawberry jam now that it was so close that she could smell it though. Before deciding, Trixie took a quick glance around. Rainbow Dash was apparently deep in thought, so deep that she had not even reacted to any of Trixie's taunts. Honestly, that annoyed her a bit. She missed the jousting already. Fluttershy was lost in staring at Rainbow Dash, presumably dreading her upcoming dare. They wouldn't notice if Trixie put the toast back down, but she'd know. Come on, Trixie. You cooked pancakes. This will be easy. As ridiculous of an encouragement as that was, it actually did make her feel a bit better about it, though for convenience she left out how much of a mess she had made doing so. Leaning in, Trixie took a bite of the toast, then pulled back, munching on her awed in sweet satisfaction. Any victory was one to be savored as far as she was concerned, even if it was a small one. Thinking about it, now Trixie felt a little disappointed Fluttershy had not seen her do it. She looked over to the cute Pegasus, trying to think of some way to casually draw her attention. If she faked a cough it probably would get her to look over, but she wanted her attention on the toast, not her throat. Okay, maybe that wouldn't be bad either. Trixie blushed. Say, Fluttershy, where did you get this jam? She tried to use as casual a tone as she could. Smiling, she saw Fluttershy turn around, and brought up the toast to her muzzle to take another bite as nonchalantly as possible, even only using one hoof this time while she used the other to indicate the toast. Trixie Aprof. Gah. In her hubris, she'd been paying far too much attention to Fluttershy, and had been talking while she moved the toast closer, knocking it right off her hoof with her own lips. As though in slow motion, Trixie could see the toast spin in the air in front of her as it fell down towards the blanket they were sitting on. No. Catch it. Catch it. Reaching at both forelegs, she made a lunge for it and grabbed it right out of midair. Yes. Huh. Crisis averted. She boasted inwardly and looked down at the blanket, not a single speck of strawberry to be found on it, much to her delight. She puffed up her chest with pride for her feat, looking at Fluttershy. So, yeah, what store? Trixie did her best to appear calm, but she did not get a reply. Trixie noticed that Fluttershy was looking at her, but not into her eyes. Her eyes were lower, and Trixie followed them. As she did, she became aware that something felt wrong, and sticky. There were her hooves, clutching the toast against her chest. Oh, great. Fluttershy raised her gaze up to meet Trixie's eyes. I think we have a little time before Rainbow Dash is done, come on. She gave a kind smile while she stood up, then took a few steps in the direction of the bathroom. Blushing embarrassed, Trixie nodded at the proposal. Yes, Trixie thinks you're right. She glanced over at Rainbow Dash. She was fairly sure Rainbow Dash was going to take her sweet time, so they could afford a quick break. However, she found Rainbow Dash was no longer ignoring her, in fact she was looking right at her, with a wide grin on her face. Trixie felt chills while she locked her gaze with those mischievous eyes. Perfect, Rainbow Dash said, more to herself than any pony else. Trixie blinked, puzzled by Rainbow Dash's words, then she braced, expecting to be ridiculed. What? Rainbow Dash looked away from Trixie and settled on Fluttershy. Wait up, Fluttershy, I have a better idea. I dare you to clean Trixie. Rainbow Dash, I'm sorry, but we were going to do that anyway. Are you okay? With great concern in her face, Fluttershy looked at Rainbow Dash. After a moment of confusion, she flashed an understanding smile. You don't have to feel pressured, you have some extra time to think of a better dare while we're gone. Smirking, Rainbow Dash added, with your tongue. Both Trixie and Fluttershy colored scarlet, and looked shocked at Rainbow Dash, then at one another. Trixie still clutched her toast, though it was quickly turning into crumbs as she tensed up hard after the clarification. Would you like to give up? Rainbow Dash asked, in a tone that said she was just going to make her do it anyway, since giving up meant she'd have to obey Dash for the day. But, that's not fair. Yeah, you can't Fluttershy protested, but she trailed off as her defense was definitely not working. If anything, it was just causing Rainbow Dash more amusement. How about something else? Like, Trixie observed a while in stunned silence. She could not fathom what Rainbow Dash must be thinking. It was absolutely a terrible, horrible idea to get that close to Fluttershy. Trixie was completely sure she was not supposed to do that. She felt her chest tighten, feeling that sense of fear rear up again and cluttering her thoughts, coloring her memory. Is she testing Trixie? Rainbow Dash will get mad if Trixie allows it. She said before to talk to Fluttershy, but then got mad when Trixie did. Fluttershy was still trying to convince Rainbow Dash to try something else, but every attempt so far was brushed aside. Though if Trixie had to be fair, Fluttershy's suggestions were terrible, such as a dare to have her flower circle through the room. How about a dare to juggle apples? Fluttershy offered. Trixie has to say something, yes, but what? It's hard to think of something. It has to be part of the test. Oh. Trixie swallowed and quickly made her own suggestion, pointing a hoof at Rainbow Dash. Trixie has a better idea. Why not dare Trixie to let you clean her? Wouldn't that be better? Smiling, Trixie pulled her hooves away from her chest, letting remains of the actual toast drop in the bowl. She motioned at the red jam covering her fur, standing out brightly in contrast against the light blue. Now that Trixie thinks about it, this doesn't sound half bad. She blushed at the idea. Rainbow Dash perked up her ears. Trixie's suggestion visibly caught her interest as she stroked her chin and looked thoughtful. Trixie stared at Rainbow Dash closely, trying to work out if she had done good by the mare's reactions. However, before Rainbow Dash could reply, Fluttershy interrupted. I accept. She spoke a little bit louder than usual, calling the attention of both mares to her. Meeping quietly with the sudden attention, she hid behind her mane. Still, she had most definitely said she would do the dare. That's the spirit, Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash grinned widely and settled in comfortably. Wait, what? Trixie blinked, unsure if she had missed something. We're going through with this? But, okay. Relax, Trixie. She took a few deep breaths to stay as calm as she could manage. She noticed Fluttershy doing the same, who then closed the distance and sat down in front of Trixie. Trixie shot another look to Rainbow Dash, but she looked completely relaxed by this point. She is really okay with this? Is she telling Trixie something? Swallowing a lump in her throat, Trixie turned her gaze to meet up with Fluttershy's. So, a dare is a dare, right, Fluttershy? She shot a sideways glance at Rainbow Dash as she spoke, more intending to remind her than Fluttershy. Alright, Fluttershy squeaked. Doing her utmost best to sit still as a statue, Trixie watched Fluttershy lean in closer. She could feel her heart beating rapidly in her chest. Both fear and anticipation rushed through her system. There was nothing she could do about it now, but hope that it was not a trick. Fluttershy lingered with her nose just a few centimeters away from Trixie's chest, and Trixie could hear her breathing in a long, slow manner. The pause while Fluttershy was so close just made Trixie's nerves act up even more. She lifted her gaze away from Fluttershy, and settled on Rainbow Dash, who made no efforts whatsoever to stop them. It's a dare. This is not on Trixie, right? She closed her eyes tightly. After a few moments, Trixie opened her eyes again. Fluttershy had not moved a bit. It puzzled Trixie, but only for about as long as it took her to remember who she had before her. Oh, if Trixie is nervous, it must be even worse for Fluttershy. Trixie should say something. This is really awkward. Trixie cleared her throat, drawing Fluttershy's attention. If we don't hurry, the great and tasty Trixie is sure to never get the stains out of her fur. It is just a little cleaning, and nothing more than that. Animals do it all the time, right Fluttershy? Maybe you could demonstrate how they do it? Animals? Fluttershy sounded puzzled, but definitely looked grateful for Trixie's attempts. Yes, all week you have shown us how animals take care of their young, and Trixie knows she saw the little ones were cleaned by their parents' tongue. Trixie was pretty far away at the time though, so could you show Trixie? She gave a confident smile at Fluttershy, which was quite a feat considering she felt anything but. Oh. Yes, of course. Well. That is called grooming. Typically it helps in hygiene, but it is also used to strengthen bonds between animals. There are different ways of doing it. Some animals do so merely in passing, some take up predetermined positions, others like to make it a mutual exchange. Her hesitation slowly melted the longer she talked. Trixie smiled and gave a few nods while she listened. How would they go about it? Well, it differs a bit, but for example they can initiate by pushing a cub to the floor, like so. Fluttershy reenacted the behavior of the mother badger Trixie had seen, pressing her head against Trixie to nudge her over. It was nowhere near hard enough to actually knock Trixie over, but she obliged and fell onto the blanket, looking up at Fluttershy. Trixie chuckled. So, cubs hate baths as much as foals then, if they have to be held down. Giggling softly, Fluttershy nodded. They are pretty similar. Getting started is the hard part, because they are so playful. After that they usually get into it, so they don't need to be restrained anymore. Once the cub is captured, the grooming begins. For other adults it is usually limited to places they have a hard time reaching, but cubs don't clean themselves yet. So the mother does most of it. She'll trap the cub, then lick against the grain of the fur. Even though Trixie had started the talk to get Fluttershy comfortable, she had gotten carried away and forgotten why she was doing it. Caught off guard, she suddenly felt Fluttershy's tongue drag along her fur. She inhaled sharply with surprise. Trixie sees, and is it just one lick? Ah. Her question was interrupted by the answer, as Fluttershy gave her another lick. Trixie closed her eyes tightly. The spoken lecture had stopped entirely and they'd clearly moved on to the demonstration part. It was the strangest feeling, something damp and warm dragged along the fur of her chest, making her skin tingle and coat stand on end. Each lick left a warm trail in its wake that quickly cooled as the air passed over. The small chills made Trixie shiver, and hope for another lick to warm her up again. Chapter 68. Rephrase. Squirming underneath Fluttershy, Trixie breathed quickly. Fluttershy's grooming tickled slightly, but more than anything it felt so good. Trixie's mind was in conflict. This was definitely something she would have loved, but it also terrified her. That rainbow dash was allowing Trixie to experience it was confusing her badly. She hasn't said anything yet, so this is okay. Rainbow Dash is okay with sharing Trixie with Fluttershy now? Is that it? Trixie felt her heartbeat quicken, knowing she had Fluttershy's complete attention all to herself for that moment. The sensation of Fluttershy's tongue slithering against the grain of her chest fur drove any other thought out of her mind. Laying on her back, Trixie had her hooves free to reach out around Fluttershy, holding the caring mare while the grooming continued. Each new stroke relaxed Trixie a bit more, to the point that she could no longer recall what worried her about this situation. Trixie approves this. She murmured, allowing one hoof to stroke along Fluttershy's back. She could hear the moist sound of Fluttershy's tongue rhythmically lapping along her wet fur, and sensed the warmth of her body so alluringly close by. Trixie leaned in closer to give an affectionate lick along Fluttershy's cheek. Fluttershy uttered a soft gasp, then gave another few quick licks in rapid succession, invoking an electrified feeling in Trixie's chest. Encouraged by the answer of Fluttershy's swift tongue, Trixie continued her show of affection, tracing her lips along Fluttershy's coat and mane until she reached her ears, then gave a playful nibble. It felt so right. Finally, Trixie did not have to hide anymore. She could show how she truly felt about the wonderfully kind, soft mare. Trixie. We're done. Fluttershy's voice pulled Trixie out of the moment. Done? Yeah, you are clean. I'm happy you're grateful, but, you can let G go. If that's okay with you. Fluttershy blushed embarrassed. What Trixie had taken as a sign that Fluttershy wanted her to continue before, suddenly made much more sense as Fluttershy trying to hurry up and get it over with before Trixie got too carried away. Trixie's eyes opened wide as she suddenly realized what she was doing, and immediately let go of Fluttershy and pulled back in panic. Sorry. It took another moment before she recalled it was not just Fluttershy she had to worry about. Chills ran down Trixie's spine. A quick turn towards her right revealed an annoyed look on Rainbow Dash's face. No. Trixie is sorry. Rainbow Dash looked on while she watched her two friends struggle with her dare, feeling incredibly pleased with herself for causing them that much trouble. She was grateful for her indecision earlier, as it allowed Trixie to make a mess of herself and subsequently provide the idea. When they started talking about animals it was confusing at first, but soon enough Rainbow Dash caught on to the intention and smirked. Clever, Trixie. Though she was a bit disappointed that Trixie found a way to cheat her out of the amusement of watching Fluttershy take her first tentatively X while near dying of embarrassment. She could have interrupted them and made the whole thing more awkward if she really wanted, by calling attention to everything they were doing, but actually her plan was working out perfectly. I'm a genius. And not the egghead genius either, an awesome genius. All I have to do is sit here, and let them get used to each other. Actually this is a pretty good show. Rainbow Dash felt her cheeks flare, and preemptively squeezed her wings against her side, just to be safe. When Trixie had offered to let Rainbow Dash do the cleaning, it had been surprising for a moment. However, when Rainbow Dash thought about it, she realized it just proved her suspicions. Trixie was comfortable with her doing it, and not Fluttershy. Well, she certainly looks more comfortable now. Rainbow Dash stretched and leaned to one side a bit to get a better look. Lapping up the strawberry jam, Fluttershy's tongue worked its way through the now slightly purplish-colored fur, though each new stroke brought back Trixie's pretty blue hue a little more. Trixie's face looked positively blissful, though there was some conflict ion mixed in. Totally working, I guess that feels pretty good. Fluttershy did say cubs would get into it once the bath started I guess. If she was completely honest though, it was working a little too well. Even though she knew she was making them do it, she could not stop the green-eyed monster from raising its ugly head. Still, the whole thing had been her idea, so she had to remember that getting Trixie and Fluttershy closer had been the whole point. Even still, she felt she would give her left wing at the moment to trade places with Trixie. Averting her gaze, Rainbow Dash discovered it did not really do much for her jealousy. The wet sopping sounds only seemed to get louder and faster. She could swear she heard Trixie nearly moaning. You are imagining it. Quit it. Maybe I should help? No, I have to stay here and be bored or it's pointless. She scowled annoyed at her own logic, but it made sense to her. Well. Come on, mission accomplished already, it can't hurt to have some fun right? She faintly registered Fluttershy saying something, but it was only when she heard Trixie cry out in alarm that she turned her head to look. While Rainbow Dash was still largely lost in her own thoughts, she locked eyes with Trixie. Ugh, great, figures I'd think of that when it's already over. Great job Rainbow Dash. She thought, annoyed. No. Trixie is sorry. Huh? What? Rainbow Dash raised an eyebrow. Whatever she had just missed, it upset Trixie a lot. She looked over to Fluttershy for a lingering moment, hoping to divine any information out of her, but she was too busy staring at Trixie to notice. You are sorry? Rainbow Dash asked. Tearing up, Trixie nodded quickly. Yes. Trixie did not mean to cheat. Please believe Trixie. You are worried I'm mad because you were cheating? Rainbow Dash paused to consider this. Then recalled that Trixie had cheated a little to get Fluttershy over her embarrassment initially, though she was surprised that Trixie thought she would really mind that much. For that matter, it was weird that it took Trixie so long to apologize for it. Why are you apologizing only now? It's way too late, isn't it? Trixie's eyes widened, folding her ears flat against her mane while she shrunk down, making herself as small as possible. Trixie didn't realize till now. Trixie swears. Don't be mad at Trixie, she is really sorry. It just happened. She rattled off in quick succession, increasing desperation in her voice. Rainbow Dash got on her hooves and trotted over, but when Trixie flinched, Rainbow Dash came to a complete stop. Whoa, slow down, Trixie. It's okay. I'm not mad, see? She looked over at Fluttershy. A quick examination showed that she was perfectly fine, so Trixie's ploy seemed to have worked just fine for making Fluttershy comfortable with the dare. Smiling, Rainbow Dash sat down beside them. Look, hey, I wasn't going to tell you, but I wanted you to do that. I thought you and Fluttershy should get more comfy, you know. The look of disbelief on Trixie's face was met with a chuckle from Rainbow Dash. Hey, don't look at me like that. You aren't the only one that can hatch a scheme, you know. I'm just better at it. Rainbow Dash brushed her hoof on her chest, then held it out to admire the shine with a nonchalant look. So, it's okay? You are okay with Trixie doing that? Are you really sure? Trixie asked hesitantly, though her ears were starting to perk up again. Right before Rainbow Dash's eyes, Trixie brightened up by the second as the words sunk in. Of course I'm okay with it. Rainbow Dash smiled, and reached out to hoof to pet her reassuringly, stripping that last bit of insecurity away from Trixie's expression. Trixie looked as though she felt 1,000 rock-filled saddlebags lighter. Beaming with joy as she got up and embraced Rainbow Dash tightly. Thank you. Trixie was so worried. Ha, you are welcome, I guess. Rainbow Dash returned the hug tightly, looking over Trixie's shoulder towards Fluttershy with a smile. Though Fluttershy looked a bit shaken up, probably from Trixie's outburst, she was smiling in relief. For a supposedly injured mare, Trixie had a surprising amount of strength, every bit of which she seemed to be pouring into crushing Rainbow Dash after that with the hug. It had actually been over a week since Rainbow Dash had allowed Trixie to hug her, and she had to admit she'd missed it a little bit. After holding the hug for a little bit longer than she was really comfortable with right in front of Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash broke away and pushed Trixie off. Okay, hey, that's enough of that. What say we continue the game? Let's see. Oh right. Hey, it's your turn, Fluttershy. Fluttershy perked up. Oh, me. Right. She pondered for a few moments on what to do, then turned to the great and ecstatic Trixie. Trixie, I dare you to talk in first person. Trixie blinked, then glared at Fluttershy. What? How long does TR? Do I have to talk like this for? She asked, worried. Fluttershy showed a sly smile. Oh, not too long. Only the rest of the evening. Come on. Trixie grumbled. Rainbow Dash laughed and winked at Fluttershy. That's more like it. Mission accomplished. Chapter 69. Retract. After Rainbow Dash's awkward dare, the game seemed to pick up speed, despite the continued nervous habit of Trixie to continually look at Rainbow Dash before she dared Fluttershy. One round had Trixie daring Fluttershy to give Rainbow Dash a back rub, another had Rainbow Dash daring Trixie to give Fluttershy a good belly rub. She vehemently insisted that it was totally different, and that she hadn't run out of ideas or anything. The good mood lasted for quite a while between the three. As much as Trixie would have liked to keep her hopes on Fluttershy, she had to relinquish her turn eventually. After she asked what the next day was going to be, Fluttershy responded with, as far as Trixie was concerned, the most adorable dare thus far, which apparently had been something they had not done since flight school. Hold her like they used to, for the rest of the game? While Trixie was at first puzzled with the request, she soon smiled as she watched the two of them. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy had cuddled up together, their hooves wrapped tightly around each other. Fluttershy had her muzzle snuggled against Rainbow Dash's neck. Quite quickly, Trixie recognized the embrace. It was the same hold she had shared with Rainbow Dash while flying, which also explained why it had been one that the two friends had ceased using after graduating, since by that point Fluttershy would have been able to fly on her own. Both Pegasus blushed heavily while they shared the embrace. "Like this, Fluttershy?" Rainbow Dash asked. "Yeah, yes, just like that." Fluttershy rested her head against Rainbow Dash's neck. As much as Trixie adored watching them together like that, she also felt a little left out, and even more so when she realized this was supposed to last for the remainder of the game. She was well aware that it was her turn now, and she was supposed to make some kind of dare, but she did not want to ruin the moment. "Trixie can wait a little while. Oh, what if Trixie dares to join in? We did that before, it felt really nice." She smiled warmly, recalling the group hug after the conclusion of the whole dragon incident. That certainly felt like a great dare, or well, maybe not that great of a dare, but definitely something she'd enjoy. However, she quickly remembered it was also Fluttershy's dare, so she couldn't copy it. Curses. I suppose you two were flying like that once. Trixie winced a little, though she had been trying to talk in first person for Rainbow Dash on occasion. After so long it just did not feel natural anymore. Rainbow Dash perked up suddenly, as though Ona now recalling Trixie was even in the room. "Oh. Yeah. Ha, ha, good guess, Trixie." She gave a few beats with her wings as though to illustrate the point. "I figured Fluttershy could use the experience of really soaring through the sky. Turns out I was right, we had a lot of fun, didn't we?" Nodding, Fluttershy chimed in. "Yes, it was very, inspirational to get to fly like that with you, Rainbow Dash. It was one of my favorite exercises. Though I still can't fly as fast as you could back then." "Trixie's too, definitely the best way to fly." Trixie smiled at the thought, but did not interrupt, staring longingly down at the hooves the pair of Pegasus had wrapped around each other. "Mine too. And hey, I just happen to be that awesome. Most Pegasus are not as fast at their best as I was at my slowest." Rainbow Dash puffed up her chest in pride. After a moment, she deflated a little again and looked at Fluttershy, pulling their hug a bit tighter. "But, I'm sure that you have what it takes to keep up even with me, Fluttershy. Just think how much you've improved already." Fluttershy just blushed and shook her head. Oh, no, Rainbow Dash, I know you're trying to help, but you already did that. I'm satisfied like this, really. Not every pony is as amazing as you are." She added the last line a little softer than usual, tilting her head down but keeping eye contact with Rainbow Dash. Trixie looked from one to the other, then spoke up, clapping her hooves together. "Well, thanks for making it easier for me. That settles it then. I dare you both to do another flying lesson too." Just before she finished her sentence, a clap of thunder shook the windows, making her flinch. She glared at the window. "Let Trixie finish. By which I mean, tomorrow. Once the weather is cleared up." She smiled. It was not entirely according to the rules, but she did not feel like breaking the cute pair up just yet. After all, she needed a little more time to commit the image to memory. Apparently, Rainbow Dash liked it enough not to call Trixie on her blatant bending of the rules, as she just smiled. "Hey, not a bad idea, Trixie." Isn't that against the spirit of the game?" "I'm sorry." Fluttershy mumbled. Trixie stroked her chin, looking contemplative. Well, yes, a little bit. Okay, a lot. But do you really care? She grinned while she watched Fluttershy shake her head in response to the question. TR. I did not think so. Is it really that hard, Trixie? Rainbow Dash asked, tilting her head while she looked at her. Talking in first person? I mean, the way you talk. I thought it was just for shows. No normal pony talks like that, you know. Smirking, Trixie brushed her mane out of her face. Thank you for acknowledging that Trixie is no mere ordinary pony. She paused for a moment, and grumbled. Curses. That I'm no ordinary pony. Rainbow Dash chuckled with yet another mess up on Trixie's part. It's fine. We're used to that by now, I guess. Still, what's up with it though? I've been wondering for a while now. Fluttershy stayed quiet, just content to remain in the embrace and just observe the conversation between the two. Though by the way her ears were perked up and at attention, Trixie could guess it was something she was interested in knowing as well. Talking slowly and deliberately to avoid further mistakes, Trixie waved a hoof dismissively. I happen to like it. You can say it is because it just sets me above others by default. Raising a brow, Rainbow Dash shook her head. But that is not the reason, is it? Come on, you want me to believe you are trying to put yourself above Fluttershy and me. I don't believe that. You've been terrified before and still called yourself Trixie. Though, you did talk normal other times. Huh? Rainbow Dash looked as though she had confused herself by this point. Fluttershy giggled softly at Rainbow Dash, giving her a light nuzzle. I think she means that you aren't really consistent sometimes. Maybe you could explain that? Folding her hooves across her chest, Trixie tilted her head up and scowled with indignation. What is with the third degree? Trixie talks however Trixie pleases. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. Fluttershy looked apologetic. Rainbow Dash inhaled, but held it after receiving a look from Fluttershy. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. I was just curious to know more about you, and I think Rainbow Dash was too. All we really know is that you have a magic show, while you already know so much about us. Trixie slowly slipped from her hostile pose. Her anger seeped away while she dropped one hoof back the ground, using the other to stroke along her elbow embarrassed. Oh. Trixie is sorry. It's just. Normally when any pony is asking about Trixie, it is to only unmask her, not because they actually care to know Trixie. Nodding, Fluttershy smiled sympathetically. I'm sorry to hear that, Trixie. We're not trying to do that. Yeah, Fluttershy's right, Trixie. Rainbow Dash added. Taking a moment to consider her situation, Trixie smirked and got up on her hooves, trotting over to the hugging Pegasus pair. Well, I can make an exception, just let Trixie get comfortable first. Well sure, Trixie, by the way you are talking in Thursday. Whoa. Hey. Rainbow Dash cried out surprised as Trixie set her hooves against both Rainbow Dash's and Fluttershy's shoulder then unceremoniously toppled them over with a push. Fluttershy let out a soft squeak as she landed on her side with Rainbow Dash still in her embrace, but neither of them were hurt from falling over on the blanket. Trixie? Meanwhile, Trixie climbed on top and got herself comfortable on her Pegasus bed with a grin. What? There is no rule that says Trix. I can only act if it is a dare. She wrapped her hooves around the pair, or at least as much as she could manage. Rainbow Dash protested. Trixie, you can't just randomly decide that. She squirmed below the pusher unicorn. Do you want to hear Trixie's story or not? Hush. Though Trixie did her best to sound cool and collected, she could feel her heart pounding in her throat. She made sure to put a little more of her weight on Rainbow Dash than Fluttershy. Not merely because Trixie was worried she had hurt Fluttershy, but also because she was still a little apprehensive about touching her without the convenient excuse of a dare. though the lack of any real retaliation by Rainbow Dash was quickly building up her confidence. Okay, I think. Fluttershy conceded. Rainbow Dash did not follow suit in actually saying she accepted it, but she did stop struggling, making it easy for Trixie to get comfy on the warm, soft fur below her. That's more like it. Trixie smiled, genuinely pleased, then turned her attention to actually answering their questions. The lovely feeling below her did her concentration no wonders, however. Well, Trixie was I have to talk like this. Right, so here goes. My reason isn't that great anyway. It better be entertaining, or next time you're on the bottom. Rainbow Dash gave a nudge up into Trixie's ribs that made her squeak. Quit that. Trixie is concentrating. I mean, I am. So, I told you before that Trixie had a friend called Flitter, yes. Well, back then I spoke, what I guess you'd call, normally in everyday conversation. But for her shows Trixie spoke normal, I mean abnormal, or ugh, you know. Fluttershy looked confused. I think I understand, but... You said you were just a filly back then, right? You already had your own show. She sounded somewhere between surprised and impressed. Oh. Did Trixie not mention that? I had a little show, but it was more like Trixie could do a few tricks for her classmates. Still, Trixie liked to put on a good performance and would become the great and powerful Trixie on stage. Wait, I did not have a stage, yet. Anyway. Flitter really liked my act, and I don't mean the tricks themselves, but the persona Trixie used for them. She wanted Trixie to use it all the time, so Trixie did. She smiled. Rainbow Dash blinked for a moment, then stared up at Trixie. That's all? That's all. Why, does that not answer your question? It's just Trixie has gotten used to it. Trixie looked down at Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash rolled her eyes. Did you really need to knock us over and climb on, just to tell us that? Probably not, but Trixie liked it better this way. Trixie grinned playfully. Staring intently at Trixie for a moment, Rainbow Dash finally moved on. Fine, so what about when you actually did start talking in first person then? Oh, Trixie is not sure if she should say. I mean, I'm not. She saw Rainbow Dash shoot her a look that threatened some kind of retaliation if she whistled out inside. Oh, alright. You both told Trixie not to talk like herself, so when I wanted to appease you I would try that. Huh? Okay. Rainbow Dash thought about it for a moment. When did I say you shouldn't be yourself? Trixie pondered briefly. Trixie, no, I think it was maybe the third day Trixie was here also, same as Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash nodded slightly while she looked and thought. Well, I don't remember saying that, so, could you forget about it? No offense, Trixie, but you are terrible at this whole first-person thing. If anything, I think I like you better when you are being yourself. And, by the looks of it, I don't think I'm the only one. Trixie? Fluttershy drew Trixie's attention. She looked almost cross-eyed. I withdraw the dare. So, please talk normally again, forever. She looked up at Trixie pleadingly. Well, if that is what you really want me, Trixie, to do. Trixie laughed. Rainbow Dash shook her head, though she looked as relieved as Fluttershy was. Well, I guess it is my turn. I'll think of something eventually. Trixie, you are not getting away with just one question if it's that short to answer. She paused while she looked Trixie over. What is your horn made from? That's the best you could come up with? It's made from alicorn. Rainbow Dash eyed Trixie's horn. What's the taste like? Chapter 70. Rift. Of all the stupid questions Trixie had figured Rainbow Dash could ask, this one set her face ablaze instantly. She could not help but think of Rainbow Dash licking her horn to find out its flavor. It took Trixie a good few seconds before she could speak in anything but a stutter. That's the dumbest question Trixie has ever heard. How would Trixie know? It's not like Trixie can reach it. Rainbow Dash looked genuinely intrigued by the answer. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Hey, Fluttershy, what do you think alicorn tastes like? However, Fluttershy had not taken much interest in the silly conversation, and instead she had closed her eyes while she held her embrace with Rainbow Dash below Trixie. She yawned softly as her name was called and opened one eye, following Rainbow Dash's direction to Trixie's horn. Blueberry. Seeing Fluttershy half asleep, Trixie for the first time that evening took note of the hour. What time is it? Trixie can't tell if it's been a few hours or a month, but this is too soon for it end. Her only point of reference was that it was pitch black outside, but it had been that way since the storm started. Rainbow Dash laughed and squeezed Fluttershy a little tighter before letting her go. Blueberry huh? Let's find out. Trixie's eyes widened. Suddenly she became astutely aware that Rainbow Dash was staring directly at her, and specifically slightly higher than her eyes, her horn. So she can't really be thinking of doing that. She gave a quick glance down at Fluttershy, but the mare just rubbed the sleep out of her eyes and watched Rainbow Dash's antics without any concern on her face. No way. They both are acting like it's no big deal. But. Rainbow Dash suddenly squirmed away from Fluttershy, creating a rift in between them, and the unsuspecting Trixie fell right in, colliding with a blanket and one warm pony on either side. Fluttershy did not look pleased with Rainbow Dash for breaking her dare, though she still smiled at her, but the eyes did not match. Looking at the down Trixie, Rainbow Dash shifted to sit up, relatively towering over her. All right, well then, Trixie, I dare you to. For a brief moment, Trixie wondered if the pony could be taken advantage of in reverse, and she concluded that was probably what she was risking right now. Wait. No. Trixie called out, her face beat red as she did. Rainbow Dash tilted her head. Trixie, I haven't even said what I want you to do yet. Besides, what are you objecting for? It's not like I change my dare just because you want me to. Trixie swallowed. It's just that. Trixie did not know the thing about wings, so perhaps you don't know about horns? She looked up at Rainbow Dash and certainly. As much as Trixie really liked the idea of Rainbow Dash, or Fluttershy for that matter, doing something so intimate, she did not want it to be out of an abuse of their ignorance. No, what about horns? You just use them for magic, right? Well, at least Trixie isn't the only one clueless about other pony races. Smirking, Trixie rolled her eyes. Yes, just like you only use your wings for flight. She was so caught up in her snark that she failed to notice a pair of hooves wrapping around her until she saw the creamy yellow. With Rainbow Dash out of reach, a sleepy Fluttershy had decided to cling to Trixie instead. Her eyes were closed again. Trixie could not really blame her, as the last dares had been overall relaxing and enjoyable ones, if significantly more physical, than the rest of the game. Trixie wrapped one hoof around Fluttershy, and remained resting on her back while she looked up at Rainbow Dash. Grumbling, Rainbow Dash looked down at the pair now that Trixie had effectively stolen her spot. Though really, it was more like she'd inadvertently forced the trait herself. Rainbow Dash had taken the time to put two and two together, and it was clear that she had worked out what she had been about to suggest by the blush on her face. Got it. You could have said something, you know, Trixie. Trixie did, you know. Trixie retorted in a hushed whisper, and gave a glance over at Fluttershy. Trixie could not be sure if Fluttershy was asleep, but she definitely looked adorable like that. Then again, Trixie does not recall a time when she doesn't. A warm feeling on her right side drew her attention. Rainbow Dash had laid back down, and looked contemplative. I guess Fluttershy is out, that just leaves us. She whispered. Trixie noticed Rainbow Dash gave another look at her horn. So it's... You know. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I've seen Twilight use it to fence or something. Trixie gave a soft grin. Trixie doubts that, but yes it is. Why, do you still want to give it a try, Rainbow Dash? She did her best to use an alluring tone, but she was sure it was not going to entice even the daredevilish mare to skip ahead so many steps. No thanks. Although, I guess it would be pretty good payback for your little stunt earlier. She gave a nod towards fireplace, though it was so close by, they were practically on the same spot it dried Rainbow Dash off to begin with. Blushing at the reminder, Trixie turned her gaze towards the fireplace. Yeah, you could have said something, you know, Rainbow Dash. I did, you know. Rainbow Dash showed a wide grin. Trixie meant before she made you putty in her hooves. Although, Trixie cannot blame you for wanting to get a sneak preview. She used her free hoof to sweep a rebellious lock of her mane out of her face, letting it fall to the blanket. Rainbow Dash averted her gaze and busily cleared up an apparently nasty cough. You know, Trixie, at the time, I thought you were doing it on purpose. Figures that it was just dumb blind luck that you were hitting the good spots. Trixie just happens to be amazing at anything she does. Trixie thought even you would have caught on to that by now, Rainbow Dash. Afterwards, Trixie actually tried to get Fluttershy to teach Trixie what not to do. Raising a brow, Rainbow Dash looked fixedly at Trixie. You did what? Staring right back at Rainbow Dash, Trixie did not answer immediately, but instead spent a moment to gauge her own reaction now that she had admitted to asking Fluttershy for something intimate, and was at the receiving end of a stare. She was definitely still nervous about it. She could feel her heartbeat quicken, but she did not feel that sharp sting of fear seize her lungs. Trixie asked Fluttershy to teach her how to preen a wing. She refused though, and explained a little more about Pegasus culture. Oh, I see. I guess you wouldn't know about that stuff, huh? Hey, do unicorns have any culture stuff like that? Do unicorns have culture? Really? Trixie put on a mock-offended face. Rainbow Dash jabbed Trixie in the ribs. You know what I meant. Trixie squirmed away and giggled, but knocked into Fluttershy in the process, who gave a startled yelp and grumbled drowsily before she settled back down. Oh, sorry, Fluttershy. Trixie did not mean to wake you. She shot Rainbow Dash a sideways glare. It's okay. She mumbled so softly that Trixie had to actually guess what she'd said. At least it seemed to only be temporary, as Fluttershy had relaxed again. After looking at the drowsing Pegasus for a moment, Trixie returned her attention to the awake one. Well, for one thing, Trixie would advise against going around licking horns to discover their flavor in public. She winked playfully. Other than that, Pegasus are the only ponies that have cities all to themselves, so race-based culture is not a thing elsewhere, instead it is location-based. Though Trixie supposes Canterlot comes fairly close to being a unicorn city if you go by population. Really? Huh? I guess I'll get to see some of that unicorn culture then when I go to the gala. Nah, I'll be too busy with the Wonderbolts to pay any attention to that boring stuff. Trixie shook her head. Oh, don't bother. If the stories are true, then Canterlot culture is something Trixie would not associate with. Where? It had taken a moment to fully register, but now Trixie's jaw was practically on the floor. You? In Canterlot? At the Grand Galloping Gala? With the Wonderbolts? You? Yeah? Twilight got us invitations. It's weird actually, she only got 2 at first. Twilight? Ah. Right. The whole personal student of Princess Celestia thing. Yes, that explains everything. Huh? Except for one thing, you did not all get invitations originally. You would think the brand new bearers of the elements of harmony would be the kind of ponies to invite right away. Trixie paused for a moment to consider it, then shook her head. No, actually it makes sense. The invitation list is probably drafted well in advance, before the elements were found. The gala is at the end of the year, so you probably would have gotten the invitations once the list was updated. After solving the mystery, she smiled proudly at Rainbow Dash, trying to impress her with her knowledge. Tilting her head, Rainbow Dash watched Trixie. Okay. I don't really care, Trixie. She shrugged while being as blunt as a hammer. It's not an Elements thing. I bet if we asked we could get you a ticket too. I'll just ask Twilight of Spike to send a letter to Princess Celestia on Thursday. No. Trixie shouted loud enough that she felt a tremor to her left and winced, lowering down to a whisper. Sorry, Fluttershy. Each time she woke the mayor up made her feel more guilty about it. Now that she thought on it, she probably woke her up a few times already without realizing. She looked at Rainbow Dash. No, but thank you. Trixie does not want Celestia to know about Trixie. Promise Trixie you won't let Twilight send any letters. Her eyes widened. Wait, she isn't already, has she? After a Trixie's show. Trixie? Are you okay? You don't look so good. Far as I know, Twilight does not really make reports on events, just on the lessons she's learned, so I doubt she told Princess Celestia about what happened. Still, she probably knows. I mean, it's not every day some big town-threatening disaster strikes Ponyville. Huh? Actually, I guess you are the second. Ha, I hope that won't become a trend. Rainbow Dash laughed, shaking her head. Trixie remained quiet for a time while she collected herself. She couldn't tell Rainbow Dash the truth. It's just... Trixie does not want Princess Celestia to have a bad first impression of Trixie. Her mind scrambled for a suitable change of subject. It's your turn, Rainbow Dash. You were stalling for time again? Rainbow Dash blinked. What? Oh, right. Okay, let's see. I dare you to lick your nose, the tip of it. Trixie rolled her eyes. That's not even hard, what a waste. She stuck out her tongue, first to taunt Rainbow Dash with an impish grin on her lips, then curled it up towards her nose. Try as she might though, somehow she was coming up just short, instead only managing to reach just halfway up her muzzle. Grinning, Rainbow Dash watched Trixie embarrass herself. Not even hard, huh? Wait, Trixie is sure she can do it. Trixie frowned, and tried again, straining and trying to use the tip of her tongue to walk up. Even with all her effort, she only barely reached her columella, the very lowest part of her nose. Sure you can, you're the great and powerful Trixie, right? So hey, that means if you don't do it, it's because you won't, and not because you can't, so I'd win the game. Rainbow Dash chuckled and propped her head up on one hoof while she observed the struggle. By now, Trixie was well aware that Rainbow Dash was trying to cheat her way to victory. She'd underestimated the winged prankster's cunning. Almost. There. Just. She blatantly lied. She had not made the least bit of progress, and she knew it. Trixie spared a sideways glance at Rainbow Dash, looking all smug and assured of victory. A Draconequus idea popped into her head. If she's cheating, Trixie will just have to cheat harder. She smirked and suddenly turned her head towards Rainbow Dash. As they were laying against each other, Trixie was immediately within range, and gave Rainbow Dash a swift lick on the nose. There. Just as you said. Trixie licked your nose. Better luck next time, Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash was taken aback and nearly tumbled backwards after the lick. She brought up her free hoof foreleg to rub her fur along her nose. She shook her head though. Heh, nice try, Trixie, but I'm calling you out. This isn't your nose. Trixie supposes you are right. Trixie agreed, but then turned her attention to her left, using her hoof to gently poke at the sleeping Pegasus. Speaking just barely above a whisper. PST, hey, Fluttershy? Fluttershy stirred, opening half an eye. MHN, yes. Trix swallowed. She had woken her up again, and this time it was even on purpose. Can Trixie have your nose for a minute? Yawning, Fluttershy responded barely half awake. "Sure, Trixie, just bring it back when you're done." She closed her eyes again. "Thank you." Trixie smiled at her, then leaned in to give Fluttershy a gentle lick, then quickly pulled back. She could feel her cheeks flush while she looked back at Rainbow Dash. There. Rainbow Dash looked open-mouthed for a moment before she found her voice again. "Hey. That's cheating." She paused at the accusation, then showed a grin while she laughed. "Ha, okay fine. I guess that was clever, we're even." Giggling, Trixie nodded in agreement. Though she would not entirely agree they were completely even. After all, she just got away with giving both Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy a lick. As minor as that might have seemed, to Trixie it broke some big barriers that she'd been skirting around, and the experiment definitely paid off. Rainbow Dash was not upset, though she was surprised, and Fluttershy, well, she was fast asleep again, so Trixie could not make much of a judgment there.